More than 4 years have passed since starting the Community Assembly of the British Isles. And we have travelled a long way and overcome many obstacles to get to this point. Setting up a parallel community from scratch is not something that can be completed overnight. There are no quick solutions, no shortcuts, and no promise of easy reward. We are free people and should stand in our sovereignty. It is not a gift, it is our birthright. Are you prepared to give your all for humanity and help us establish a new reality for our children, grandchildren, and future generations? Take a step forward and join with us and stand in your freedom. The Community Assembly of the British Isles and the assemblies of the world are the way forward. We are the unity in the community. Find out more and get involved at www.cabrishisisles.com. Find us on Facebook, X, YouTube, and Telegram. Are you concerned about all this corruption being misgendered as conspiracies? Well, don't you worry. Sit back, relax, and join in the conversation as we talk with today's guest. Welcome to another LSB Film Productions podcast with your host, Kristofer Brooks.
Hello and welcome to the channel, it's me, Kristofer Brooks. Right, I've not long just published the council meeting, so you can look at that for the reference, but we're now going to discuss what you couldn't really hear the councillor saying because the audio is just so bad, and I think it's probably purposely designed like that so they can't be heard because it's just shocking. So, welcome to the channel. We've got Mark Taylor, we've got Bob Seys, both at the council meeting, both tried asking questions on deaf ears, and there was a lot of contempt shown by the councillors, and so we're now going to discuss what they did or didn't answer and how we feel things are going to go from here. So enjoy. Welcome guys.
Hiya. How are things going to go? Downhill for the council.
I would say so.
Downhill for the councils across the country, actually.
Well, look at what we got from Liverpool.
Yeah.
TPR the other day.
Yeah, the Liverpool Council Watch. Was it a private meeting?
Yeah.
With a couple of high up councillors, and they got the same short shrift as the rest of the councils across the country are giving the public. They won't answer a question. They won't engage, not properly anyway. And
they don't even answer emails.
No.
So it's not just at the opportunity of question times. It's they don't answer privately either.
That's it. Yeah. Well, I've been told personally, that they will not engage with me because I'm being vexatious. Their favourite word that I discovered comes from the 1700s to shut down questions. So, but yeah, the Liverpool one was quite shocking actually. Very patronising and condescending at the end, where this councillor said, well, and you haven't done yourself any favours turning up and speaking to us. Unless you can format your questions in a better way, then we won't be talking to you. It's unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable.
No, it comes across, they're just full of their own self-importance.
Yeah.
What they don't seem to comprehend is that they've been put in to represent people, not to have fantastic amounts of power over people, just shut them up and ignore them. They're duty bound to show us their working out.
Yeah.
And it's not happening everywhere. You could see it in the Liverpool film. We're getting it all the time.
Yeah.
Has the film of the other night gone out yet? I haven't had a chance.
About 3 minutes ago.
Right, okay, so people will be catching up with that now.
Yeah. Well, the thing is they're in this mindset of following an authority higher than them, aren't they? That's their problem.
Yes.
Is that they've completely and utterly forgotten that they are there just to engage with the public and go with the public.
Sounds a bit like the 1940s.
Yeah. Taking an order from higher up and then sticking the middle finger up to the public that are asking a question. We've been here before in history, haven't we? We have.
Well, if you look at what happened at Thetford the other night, it started off quite well. It started off orderly. People were asking questions. The answers that were being given by the councillors themselves, I would not say were good answers.
No, because they didn't actually answer
They weren't
anything.
really answers, were they?
Obfuscation, I think, is the word. basically when you started your question with your preamble, you were consistently cut off and interrupted.
Yeah.
And then they had the audacity then to say that you'd run out of time.
Yeah. Well, that was the most annoying thing about what I wanted to say, because the preamble was to lay down a context and lay down a reminder to the councillors that they have previously been warned about. They were issued with the Pfizer smoking gun document, okay, basically, which revealed the harms and that in the trial was up to rollout, and they were handed this document back in January 22, and they ignored it. And my preamble was along the lines of they are now complicit in crimes against humanity for ignoring the information they were given, and they need to dig deep into their own souls, away from the council, as to where they're going to go next with the information we're giving them on the climate crisis they've declared. Because we can very easily debunk their declaration, but they are completely and utterly unwilling to engage with us and show us information or data or whatever to back their claim. And that was what my preamble was about, but I never even got to the end of that, and they started coming in. They started interrupting, and while they're interrupting, they're eating into the 3 minutes. Now the thing is, the way I look at it, I sent an email to Alan York, right? And the way I look at it is, if I want to stand there and juggle or play the banjo for 3 minutes, that's my prerogative, because that's my 3 minutes. And what I found really disgusting was when the council actually started their part of the meeting, is that we was told to just shut up because they wanted to get on with their part of the meeting, and yet they wouldn't allow the public to speak.
Well, especially without interruption anyway.
Without interruption, yeah.
Well, the thing is, what I would say is, if you're a studier of politics, meetings, anything like that, if you look at the American system, they call it the town hall. Now, you can comprehend that if everybody speaks forever, nobody's going to get in. Mm-hmm. So they set a time limit of 3 minutes. Now, people are allowed to speak and set the stall out for 3 minutes with the question coming at the end, in effect to give context. If they slightly run over, it doesn't take much common sense to realise that somebody's coming to the summarising of their preamble, you know.
Yeah.
It's common sense. But that's the system that you have virtually all around the world. You see in Colchester, when we see Colchester on the internet, they get up and they're allowed to give a preamble relating to the question. That happens everywhere. You don't just get up and ask a short, pithy question.
Yeah.
There's always a preamble.
Yeah.
Now, I've got a copy of the agenda here from Thetford Council, and I did notice this when I was a councillor. It says, note, the meeting is customarily preceded by a 15-minute open forum, start at 7 p.m, when members of the public and representatives of the press are invited to address the council.
Yeah, an open forum.
It doesn't say a question only. It says representatives and the public are invited to address the council. Now, they put the 3-minute caveat on it. Now, within that 3 minutes, if you give your preamble ending with the question and the preamble gives context, that is what is supposed to happen.
Yeah.
You were constantly cut off during your 3-minute preamble because they didn't want to look at the point you were bringing up.
No, they don't. They don't want to hear. Maybe it's a guilty conscience now. Who knows? You know, ultimately where we are now is that it's a pretty general. It's public knowledge now that people were shafted over the what happened in 2020 and 2021, and everybody knows somebody that's been affected by it, and they just don't want anyone to hear it. They don't want it actually on public record that they screwed up big time. But like I say, that was just that little introduction was just a reminder that you've been here before. Don't make the same mistake again. Now, if that's the thing, there's a little bit of paper there. Chuck that bit of paper over. The one thing I really wanted to lay out to them, I mean, it's 3.5 pages, and I timed it to 3 minutes. The one thing I really wanted to lay on them was the Freedom of Information request that I
Give the wrong name.
I gave the wrong name. Because I'm being interrupted all the time, I went blah blah blah, and I just spurted out Chris Brooks. It's not Chris Brooks, it's Chris. Whether he wants me to reveal his last name, begins with a W, I don't know. But I just spat it out. But the point I was trying to get across is that in this Freedom of Information request, the council are now saying that they are following an order from the National Association of Local Councils.
No.
Right. Now I contacted them to say to them, can you send me any information, data or evidence to back your claim, and that you're advising councils to declare a climate crisis.
Apparently Ipswich are doing it as well.
Yeah, and they can't do it. So they sent me back a statement. It was just a bog standard link, and it was just a series of statements. I mean, one of them was thanking Greta Thunberg for waking up for the youngsters to the climate emergency. But there was still actually no data. I replied to them again, they still can't give me any data. That's what I wanted our council to hear, because the council don't seem to be they're
not backed by evidence.
Yeah, each reference that they use is an empty reference, because all of the organisations that are advising them have actually got no data to back themselves up, let alone advise a council.
Well, you could say we've hit them with points about this scam climate crisis only in the last 2 months.
Yeah.
So I could forgive them if they said, listen, we're still doing some research on this.
Yeah.
We are going to come back and have a full and detailed debate with you.
Yeah.
I could forgive them for that.
Yeah.
They're not doing that. They're just
not.
ignoring. Now, I'd like to go back to your preamble of the 2022, because a member of the public got up and read out the Pfizer doc.
Yeah.
Which they tried to bury for 75 years and a judge stopped it.
Yeah.
So that documentation was read out. The councillors were then asked what their thoughts were, and would they come in on behalf of the people of Thetford and speak out about it. They were quiet and they then got put on notice.
Mm-hmm.
Now basically that was 2 years ago?
Yeah.
Now what's happening in a minute is all the data's come out. We've got people being paid out on the vaccine harm platform. We've got the excess death rates have gone through the roof. This is being published everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
AstraZeneca has been pulled off the market worldwide. Now all this information is out there. So for the last 2 years they've had a chance to do research based on what we said to them in 22.
Yeah.
And all the information's out there. So they should at least have a point of view on that.
Yeah.
They should be saying the information that's out we don't believe, or they should be saying that we're wrong. They should be saying something. They're burying their heads in the sand on the 2022 smoking gun document.
Mm.
They're not talking about the climate crisis one, which we're now talking about. They're just not speaking about anything. They've got no point of view. They're like a gang of muppets being told what to do by somebody from above. They will not talk, they will not speak. I would expect the independents on the panel. I've already had a word with Ron.
Mm-hmm.
I forget his surname.
Wood.
Ron Wood. Because Ron's supposedly an independent. I've explained to him what being put on notice means. I've told him he's got to do due diligence on what he's being told off the public, or he will be putting himself in the crosshairs, the firing line. But Ron's not coming back. I mean, aren't any of them doing any research?
The thing they don't realise is that they are now liable in their own private capacity. Now, I was just talking to one of my customers, and one of her relatives, Kent, I think she said, all of the vaccine injured people have got together and they are now suing councillors, MPs, members of parliament. They're going for it. They're actually suing them now for their injuries. And our councillors don't seem to realise that the hole they're digging for themselves. Was the guy on the end, Terry Land? Not exactly my favourite character.
Drink!
Yeah, yet another one who's completely and utterly belligerent and ignorant in knowledge. And throughout my talk, ask your question. Constant disruption. I even said to one of the security guards, I said, "Can you see why you're here now? You know, you can see why the public are getting so agitated, because because their form of democracy isn't mine.
No, it's quite. I stood up, and I don't know if it's on the film. I stood up and had a word with one of the security guards. We still haven't been told how long this is going on for, them being paid out of the public purse. We only found out it was £180 a session through the EDP. The councillors and the clerk will not tell the public how much it's cost, but they will tell the paper, which was interesting.
Yeah.
But basically, there's frustration from the members of the public to the councillors. There's frustration on the fact that questions are not being answered, and there's no dialogue.
And so, it's not just the subjects we're talking about.
No, it's other members as well. Yeah. But what I'm saying is there's frustration from the public to their duly elected representatives, which is what they're there for. You can understand the frustration. What I found concerning was the threats that you had of that Councillor Terry Land.
Yeah.
He started pointing at you and saying, get to your question, in a very, very intimidating manner. And that's when I said to the security guard, look, well, be ready, he's intimidating a member of the public.
Yeah.
I mean, what we've got now is councillors, instead of having dialogue with the public, they're actually threatening the public.
Yeah.
It's like the roles have reversed.
Yeah, which I find quite interesting, because I doubt Mr. Land would do that had there not been a security guard there.
Exactly. No, people need to watch that. I don't know if they'll get the context because of the lack of what you can hear on it, Chris.
I've got him and his hand gestures and sit down, and all that.
Yeah, I'll tell you.
Just for the context, then he was telling Bob to get to the point. And he was pointing and becoming aggressive and saying, just get to your point. I've had enough of your preamble. I want your question. And councillors are not there for that. Councillors are there to listen.
Yeah.
Now, if you go over your 3 minutes, he should then be able to say to you, look, Bob, is your name Bob? You've gone over your 3 minutes. I need your question now, or they're going to cut you off.
Yeah.
Interact and have empathy with the public.
Yeah.
But he was threatening. You know?
Yeah.
Now, the councillor did acknowledge to me, when I said to him, can you see he's becoming intimidating? The security guard did shake his head and say,
Yeah, and it shows you the complete disregard that they have for us asking questions, because they wouldn't they won't listen to you verbally putting across your information. So I actually sent them 4 pieces of information via email through Alan York and Hazel McCambridge, who was the one that declared this climate emergency.
Was she there last?
No. So, but she's always tagged in there because it was her that declared it, you know. As I've sent them 4 pieces of information. The last piece that I sent them was actually scientists that are no longer funded by the corporations, that have pulled out of the climate narrative because they no longer need the funding. Okay, and it was a really important film, because it's a film about scientists that have admitted they were lying. Right? Now, I asked Alan York, the acting town clerk, to share that amongst all the councillors. One of my questions to that council was, can you raise your hands if you've received this information from Alan York? And not one of them.
So what is going on? Are we saying that the deputy town clerk is stifling information from the public?
You're bloody right he is.
You know.
Yeah, you're bloody right he's stifling it.
I mean, I've actually put a complaint in to the police for public malfeasance by some of the councillors and by the clerk in relation to the money being paid for the security guards, and the police won't investigate it.
Yeah, they won't.
Nothing to investigate.
Because they're all interlinked, aren't they?
Yeah.
The council are connected to the police, are connected to the courts, are connected to the prisons. They're all in that corporate world, aren't they?
They're all in the same club.
They're all in the same club.
But what the public, any of the public that's listening, what they've got to realise is it's a money grab. By setting the conditions of this spoof climate emergency and then getting people worried, they will then tap into being able to take money off them in different avenues, you know.
Which they are doing.
You know, you got your carbon tax, you won't be able to go here. It all relates back to your 15 and your 20-minute city.
Yeah.
And everything's going to be associated with the climate crisis, which there isn't one.
Yeah.
It's like today we've got, I mean, anybody out there who's listening, 1976, we had a drought for about 4 months.
Yeah.
Hottest summer we ever had.
Yeah, and look at but then look at the narratives they do spin. Every 10 years, there's a different crisis, you know, and none of it's come to fruition. None of it.
What got me was the thing that got me in is, and that's why at the end, I don't know, did that come out in the film? My last point at the end. There's nobody showing any leadership on the council. Now, we had Councillor Barretto, who's now the deputy mayor. Nobody could understand the word that she was saying. She talks that fast. You had members of the public saying, we don't understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
She showed no leadership whatsoever in coming to grips with public questions. She should have.
Yeah. When you think it was actually her that interrupted me.
It was, yeah.
First time.
You know, she'd been told. Now, the seasoned so-called politician on the council is Councillor Jeremy. He was inconspicuous.
Very quiet.
Yeah. Did not say a word. This is why I said somebody show some leadership. I was expecting leadership of him to at least get up and grip what people were saying, heading them off at the pass. But he was in his own little shell.
Yeah. Well, he wanted to hide out of the way. He doesn't want any ripples over the next week, does he? He doesn't want any ripples or upset as he's running for MP. He doesn't want to be seen to getting into any kind of conflict with anyone who's got a different opinion.
But the thing is, if we want somebody to be in Parliament, we expect leadership from them. Even if you don't agree with somebody, have dialogue on the point.
Absolutely.
He sat there. I mean, if he can't control a town council meeting, how the hell is he going to control anything in Parliament?
Yeah.
You know.
Someone's been buying off eBay.
That's eBay. That'll be an alert for a phone cable or something.
But yeah, it just looks like he's sitting there. He's sitting there waiting to get voted in on the back of everybody's fed up with the Conservatives.
Yeah.
Rather than the fact that he does anything, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got here is.
That's it. That's what a lot of people are doing now. They're using the.
They're using the vote as a weapon now.
Well, yeah,
rather than.
But they're not going by off their own merits. They're using how shit somebody else is.
Yes.
Instead of how good they are.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've got a lady here. I've got a lady here on the Labour leaflet for Thetford, and she's backing up Terry. I love this area, but it saddens me that our public services are at breaking point. It's wrong that some people can't get to see a GP or a dentist, and I know as an MP, Terry will always work to improve the well-being of the local community. No, what Terry Jeremy will do, he will move money out of a fund that could be spent on something better, like bringing in a dentist for a couple of days, or filling potholes in the road. No, he'll put £30,000 in a spoof pot for a spoof climate crisis. So that's what you're going to get if you vote for Councillor Jeremy. You're going to get a misuse of money on things that don't exist. If that's what people want to vote for in Thetford,
I was talking to a lady on the school run, and she said that she went to there was a dentist where you could go once for the kids.
Yeah.
And she went, and then they said if you need to come back, it's going to cost money. Well, NHS for dentists for kids always used to be free.
Yeah.
Well, what people have got to realise is, and we're getting on to bigger politics now, everything's a trust. The trusts were brought in through Labour, Tony Blair. The trusts at the top for all the shareholders are there just to make money. If Labour do get in, they're not going to get rid of the trusts.
Yeah.
You know, NHS is not, and dentists is not going to become cheaper.
Yeah, and you talk about public services on that leaflet. You know, I saw something recently. There was a load of GPs protesting in the face of Rishi Sunak, protesting that there's now 4 out of 5 qualified GPs out of work.
But they've all got student loans, haven't they?
Yeah. But that's 4 to 5, and but the funny thing is, I did a little video about it the other day. It's utterly ridiculous that these GPs backed the NHS X trial run back in 2020, which was to see how many people they could run through the system without a face-to-face appointment. Now these GPs sat on their arses and they were quite happy taking the money for the thing you're not allowed to talk about at the time, and now it's hit them Now they've lost it. How much money does a GP earn? I don't know. It's a
More than
potful.
I'd like to think.
Yeah. Now they've lost that. Now they're moaning. But so Mr. Jeremy is going to, he's going to do public services and all that sort of thing. So where's the money going to come from to pay these people to do that?
Excuse me. Well, the big.
Me, you, and you watching.
Well, let's just quickly, I would suggest, cover what's going to happen next week, the election, and who the people of Thetford got to vote for, and what do we think?
Who have they got to vote for? Gary Conway, who's running for Heritage. Yeah. Now, I'll tell you, out of all of them, I would say he is the one guy that is hitting every nail on the head. He can see the corruption. He can see why there's mass illegal immigration. He can see who's behind it. He's the only one that seems to be voicing it. He's the only one that seems to be backing what the public are thinking.
And to be fair, the Heritage Party as a whole are pretty much the same, aren't they?
Yeah.
They've never had to retract. They've always been against. David Curtin was doing the protests back in 2020.
Yeah.
All the other ones are backtracking.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to. A vote for Gary Conway is great on a personal point of view. It's the wider Heritage Party.
Yeah.
How many will get in? That's Gary.
Yeah.
Right, we've got the. Have you met the Independent James Bragg?
I haven't met him, but I've heard of him.
Right, let me tell you about James. I got involved with James a few months ago. He came into the town court in favour, and I got involved with him through one of the local hotels. Lovely fella, really articulate, debonair, really good. You take to him straight away. Got him involved with the football club dinner, trying to get him to the rugby, and he went to a few official functions. He went to the Thetford Business Awards. And really nice fella, gets on great with everybody. However, at his hustings, he had hustings in one of the council buildings, where we went into detail. And as he was talking, I said to him, James, I said, you need votes, you're in Thetford. I said, I think I can help you with votes. And he said, why? I said, because when I was in UKIP, I got the highest votes in Norfolk as UKIP councillor. I said, they're apathetic at the minute. That's why Labour only got 18% votes in the town. The old UKIP voters are waiting to be woken up. And I said, if you can wake them up, you'll get good votes in Thetford. At that point, he told me he disagreed with me, which I was surprised at, and I asked him why. And he said, well, I won't be stopping the boats. You want to stop the boats.
Ho, 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 ho.
And I said, you talking about the boats coming over the channel? He said, yes, I won't be stopping in the boats. I'm quite happy with people coming here.
Wow.
At that point, I walked out and left the hustings, never went back. So I would say a vote for James Bragg is a vote for further.
That's a real "I'm all right, Jack" kind of attitude, isn't it?
Yeah. No, I do.
Wow.
I do know that he tried to do a hit job on the Heritage. Yeah. So he comes across. I mean, I think he's a really nice fella. He comes across as a really nice fella, James Bragg. But you do find he's got a real nasty.
Yeah. What are his policies?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Well, my podcast with Gary
that,
goes out tomorrow night.
Yeah.
And we go into their policies and we show the screenshots of the tweets between Gary and
Oh, I look forward to
James
that. Yeah.
Bragg.
Ah.
So yeah, tomorrow night, Friday.
Okay. What are we gonna get with Councillor Jeremy? What are you gonna get? I mean, what's he done at the local level?
Who's the
We're
other
going to
guy?
get plenty of daffodils in spring.
Yeah, and turning up for litter picks at the end of the litter pick.
Yeah, just
Turn up
just
for photographs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, basically, if his local initiatives transfer nationally, they'll be robbing Peter to pay Paul for stuff that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So basically, he'll be all behind a climate crisis. So that's what's Labour gonna, which ultimately for the working class people of Thetford leads to a carbon tax.
Yeah.
Or 15 minutes to 20-minute neighbourhood.
Yeah.
So basically, if you're voting for Labour and Terry Germany, you're voting ultimately to be restricted on your movements.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, let's face it. You know, when we stopped and brought it to the public's attention that they were going to try and use Thetford as a trial for a 15-minute city, and we stopped it. that just put the brakes on for a little while. This declaration of a climate emergency, for me, is a way of them coming round the back door and trying to reintroduce it again.
Well, this is because, as George Galloway said in that famous speech, the two main parties, Conservative and Labour, are two cheeks of the same ass.
Yeah.
And what people have got to realise is, again, because of the whip system, what we're talking about, at the top, they're all controlled by the same people. Now, I don't particularly get on with Liz Truss. When Liz Truss was a Conservative MP and I was a councillor, I think she used to run from me, because some of the questions I used to ask her UKIP, she was not happy with. So I don't get on with Liz Truss. But when you listen to what she's been saying recently, she realises that she was done up like a kipper. When she introduced that budget as the leader of the country, she soon realised that it was the people above her, the banksters, and people like that who actually dictate how the country works.
Yeah,
she fell foul of that.
Yeah, she actually said that in an interview, didn't she?
Yeah.
That she suddenly realised that she wasn't pulling the levers.
No, if she'd have spoke to the likes of Thetford Council Watch, we could have told her that already. You know what I mean? It's quite strange that a leader of the country only finds out who really runs the country when they're in a position of leadership.
And yet the people of Thetford knew all along.
We knew all along.
Because she was in an interview. Was it in America?
Yeah.
She even mentioned the New World Order.
That's right. Yeah, she talked about
that.
Yeah,
I found that meeting quite suspicious, though. The APAC meeting. You know, we know who that's all connected to.
No, but she's saying the right thing. She's saying, you know, I was not in charge.
Yeah.
Now, here's my point. Getting back to, you know, because I think Gary's a lovely fella at the Heritage Party. I've met David a few times. Great. They're not going to get a breakthrough.
No, because there's not enough of them.
Yeah. Now, my this is just my personal analysis. Point before is there's a potential breakthrough with reform.
Yes, totally agree.
Right, it's a potential breakthrough.
Yeah.
Now, my point of view is we've got to start putting reform into places of responsibility, so that we can then call them out and find out if they do what it says on the tin.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's the only alternative we've got.
It's the only way in at the moment.
Yeah.
There's the people running for MP this time round. They're absolutely inundated with independents. But how many independents are you realistically going to get in?
No.
You know, reform is the only way through to at least get a bum on the seat.
See, from my point of view, there's a lot of momentum for reform. Now, there's that many people getting involved in the momentum that if it turns out to be a scam, it will be a front and centre headlights scam, which will wake up even more people.
Yeah.
So I think that the people who are going to get behind reform, who don't usually vote, the old UKIPers, the red wall people like that, by putting reform in the spotlight, we're going to find out exactly who reform work for.
Yeah.
Do they work for the same people that Liz Truss got done over by, or are they going against those people?
Yeah. I was chatting to a lady yesterday. She knows that we talk politics and stuff all the time, and she said to me, I don't know the depth of what's going on like you guys do. She said, but I do know I read their manifesto and I really like what they're saying. She said, whether it will come to fruition or not, we don't know. You know, politicians don't exactly tell the truth. But if it's you know, the way I look at it is this lady has been she's been a Tory all her life, and she doesn't hold real strong political views as such, but she can see what's happening to our country. That's why she's going down the reform route.
Listen, but once you know somebody's a liar, you don't listen to them. You ignore them, and you come up with your own resolutions. The problem we've got now is we can see who the liars are, and we've got a few people who've not yet proved to be liars.
Yeah.
You know, once we know who all the liars are, we can come up with a strategy.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem we've got with reform at the minute is, and we all know how we feel is, and you know, we got old UKIPers who don't trust Nigel, this, that, and the other. I just feel that reform have got to be put in a position of responsibility, so we can see if they're another part of the cheek of the same ass.
Yeah, the third cheek.
You know,
actually, that could be a possibility now. You know, you can be in whatever you want to be now. You could be somebody with 3 cheeks.
Or the 3 boobs, like Total Recall.
No, but
Jesus.
But it's going to be interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I could understand last night why they only had two leaders on. You know, we had the leaders' debate last night on television.
Yeah.
I mean, why wasn't Nigel on there?
Yeah. I did hear. Well, you only got to look at like the party political broadcasts and things like that. You know, the rules that they've laid down to allow these people to get their manifestos out and to let the people know what they're all about. It's actually the press and Ofsted, is it?
Ofcom.
Ofcom, yeah. Ofcom that are really dictating who goes on to the public forum and gets a voice.
Yeah, they've done the workings out now, and it's been quite biased to the
Yeah, absolutely, it's biased. Yeah. I think I heard it was on UK Column News, somewhere where you might go and get some decent news actually, and some realistic news. And they were saying how, you know, in the rules of engagement, so to speak, where political parties can get onto the TV, mainstream, and what have you, they need to fit a certain criteria. But ultimately, it's down to, so like how the BBC think it's going to boost or reduce their viewing figures.
Yeah.
Well, also you've got to bear in mind at the moment under the Tories, the BBC get their licence fee.
Yeah.
If it's under reform or something, then they can say right, no more.
Yeah.
So they've got
a vested interest, haven't they?
I think there's enough people around the country starting to realise now that legacy media is seeing them off.
Yeah.
I think the opinion, from what I can see, having looked at it from a UKIP point of view years ago, and what's happening with reform, I think they're hiding a lot of the momentum that reform has got on the main media.
Yeah.
Just to try and stifle people from getting involved.
And let's face it, all of this information that's coming out is coming out from the back channels. People are no longer watching the mainstream. They're not watching the BBC or ITV or whatever anymore. You got your diehards that will, you know, but the back channels are where the real news is now.
Excuse me. But that brings us back to our town council meetings and local councils. I mean, we're getting called a rabble at the minute, and you could see that the other night. We're not a rabble. It's not just us. There's other people who are not part of Council Watch in the council meetings getting frustrated.
Yeah.
No answers, nothing forthcoming from councillors. No, we're on the front line at the minute. We're getting called a rabble, trying to hold them to account. You know, normal people have got to realise they've got to get involved locally and make things happen locally.
Yeah.
I mean, we're all relying at the minute on these national elections. And, you know, this will be interesting. This one.
Yeah, it will be. It's a history-changing one. But going back to the councils, as I've said previously, they've been able to hide behind nescience. They've been able to hide behind the fact that they just didn't know, and that's fine because none of us know everything. They've been able to hide behind that, but after being passed the information in a very baby steps manner, if you like, that's very easy to comprehend, they are now in the realms of willful ignorance, and they have no idea of the level of trouble they could actually be in their own private capacity. It should be scary times for these people.
Maybe,
but like you say, this has got to be a bottom up. It's a bottom up movement, and that movement is growing big time.
Well, people have got to wake up to the fact is we've got all these lunatics crossing the channel.
Yeah.
Getting rid of all the documentation. You've got the Human Rights Act and conventions that we're signed up to will not allow us to do anything.
Yeah.
At the minute, we're going to have to get out of those conventions in order to take some control back. You've then got John O'Looney. I love John. John was on saying we've got to be very careful because if the Human Rights Act goes, that can be then any protection we think we've got.
Yeah.
I think we've got to start going down the sovereign route more.
Yeah.
You know,
instead of human rights, it's divine rights.
Yeah. If we go down, this is what I would say to John. If you go down the land, the air, and the water, and the sovereign route, that in effect takes the human rights away, because these human rights are being given to us by,
Another human.
Yeah.
Big organisations and big international bodies are saying you've all got your human rights. No, we've got human rights because of ourselves
You've
and our
got it
sovereign
anyway.
capacity.
You was born. That's your right.
So when I actually heard John put a little podcast out about that, initially it set a rabbit run and I thought he could be right. But in order to control our borders, we're going to have to get rid of these protocols, aren't we? And conventions.
I think there's a big.
Don't be scared of it. Is my point,
Talking about that, about the people coming down on boats and everything. I think it's the 29th of this month. There's a massive protest down in Kent, where they're all coming ashore. Yeah, the 29th. There's a big old thing going off down there.
Well, let's look at again. I just want to talk about the poor working class people. I'm not a socialist, I'm not a communist.
Yeah.
But you've got all these seaside towns and these big major towns where all these lunatics, and I'm going to call them lunatics because I don't know who they are, they've got no documentation.
Yeah.
They've all been put into the hotels. You now can't go and spend your money there and lift up the living standards of the people locally because there's nowhere to stay.
And the other
so
thing,
that's dragging the place down.
And the other thing is, because all these hotels are being usurped by the government to house all these people coming in on the dinghies.
With money that doesn't exist, we're paying interest
With
on.
money that doesn't exist. What's happening now is the hotels that are available for the general public, the price is going up so high for people to use those hotels. Yeah. It's hitting.
Also, I would imagine that, for example, I used to love going to Folkestone because it had a lovely little seaside. I spend hours there. With all that going on, I wouldn't want to take my kids there now.
Yeah.
So even whether there's hotel rooms available or not, the fact that that's there would mean that I wouldn't want to be.
Yeah. It's funny how one of my wife's.
Let's make sure people don't make yourself to be racist now.
Yeah, you're not, because you're not racist.
We're talking about. Listen, we're not talking about the Scots who state and sort themselves out. They've got their own parliament. We haven't got one, by the way. But the English, it just doesn't matter.
Realist. If that makes me a racist,
it doesn't matter what you look like. If you're English, you're English. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Absolutely.
But we're gonna. None of these politicians look like they're going to sort this out. Why? Why are none of these politicians going to sort this out?
Because they've signed themselves up. Yeah, I found that recently, and someone on there may prove me wrong, and I want someone to prove me wrong, but I did hear that everyone who enters Parliament, the first thing they have to do is sign themselves up to the Israeli lobby. Whether that's true or not, I want someone to tell me.
There you go.
Here's the $1 million question, yeah. George Galloway said they've all, and you might not agree with everything George says, I don't, but he's a conviction politician, isn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Does George Galloway answer the question if you ask him? On the whole, I would
in
say
general,
you might not agree with what he says, but he answers the question. Who's the only, because we're all, if you're going to vote, or you're either going to spoil your ballot paper next week, who's the only politician that's answering any question?
Yeah, Farage. Yeah.
Is he true or is he false?
We don't know.
How do we find out?
We don't. You don't.
You need to put him in a position.
Yeah, you got to get him in there, or will he do what he did with UKIP? Hand it over.
Yeah, but he that's slightly different because he did what he said on the tin. He'd secured Brexit.
Yeah, and
that was all. He wasn't in there to run a major party.
Yeah,
he was in there to get Brexit.
Pity they didn't actually instigate it.
Well,
they got us out, but they didn't actually change any.
Yeah, but Boris said he was going to do it, didn't he?
Yeah.
I had people in Liverpool voting Conservative.
The same Boris that was sent to the Ukraine to disrupt the Ukraine-Russia peace deal 2 years ago. Yeah. If people didn't know that.
How much money are we sending there?
Yeah.
The people's money's being sent away on wars. We haven't got a vote on.
Mm.
It's being spent on a climate crisis that nobody can prove.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, we've got people living on the streets.
Yeah.
We've got people. It's madness.
But then you say that. You're going back to what you said earlier. It's not our money that's being sent there because the money's just being printed. All they're doing is
but
they're
wait.
laundering fake money.
But don't forget, we're paying the national debt. Our kids and our grandkids are going to be paying that debt.
We're
off
just
forever.
being raped of the money that we earn ourselves.
Well,
but
there's a simple way to this. There's a simple way to stop this.
Stop paying.
Stop paying.
If everyone stopped paying, that'd be the end of it, wouldn't it?
Well, put your hand up if you stop paying. So just don't pay. What are you going to do? Put us all in jail?
Well,
Yeah.
I reckon.
You're going to be called the Revolutionary Channel soon, you know.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe.
No, but the main thing is anybody who watches that town council meeting, that is just capturing. The Thetford Town Council is just capturing what is happening all over the country.
Yeah.
The people are not being listened to. There's no communication with the people. The clueless who's been put in. We're voting for people based on a colour at the minute, red or blue. It's exactly the same in America, because our fathers and our forefathers have always voted like that. Where I come from in Liverpool, they all vote Labour and they hate the Tories. I went to a local pub last night. They all vote Tories and they all hate Labour.
Yeah.
You know, when you move around, you look, we're all captured. You know, it's madness. And then when it doesn't matter if you've got it, as we've seen in Liverpool with that TPR film, they were asking Labour councillors to communicate and they wouldn't. You know, we've got Labour in Thetford, but at the Brecon level, Tories, they will not communicate. The one thing that all these lunatics have got in common is they don't want to communicate with the people.
Yep.
What are the people going to do about it?
Yeah.
And that's a good question to pose on and to end on, I think. Because I'm this side of the mic, I will let you close out, Bob.
Oh, blimey. I didn't bring my harmonica in, so... I don't know. I think it's down to everybody in their own... If you've got views and if you've got things that you need to get off your chest, instead of sitting there moaning about it, you know, people like to moan. Instead of doing that, why don't you come down, say this Monday coming, all right, we have a Thetford Council watch, get your asses down there, 7 o'clock at the bell in one of the back rooms, and we want to talk to people, we want to know people's views, so that we can go back to the main council and hit them with it. If those people want to join us, get them in there as well. Get them in there, challenging from the bottom up.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there you have it, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. I don't know how well you can hear me with the mic being over there, but thanks, Bob. Thanks, Mark. Catch the live stream of the Council Watch this Monday at 7:30, and yeah, well done.
Freedom!
Freedom.